Good afternoon and good evening to everybody. I'm your instructor. My name is Greg Lutz. Today's presentation is a presentation about OneNote 2010. The presentation will take approximately 45 minutes, and I'll take you through some of the more interesting things that I've found with my favorite program. No question, hands down, this is my favorite product. I'm just going to share my whole desktop. That way you guys can see everything that I'm doing. All right. In a second, you'll see my desktop. And here what I've done is I've got Outlook open. And this is OneNote. But I'm just going to close OneNote. I'll minimize Outlook and the rest of my screens here. I'll now go to Start. I will head to All Programs. Inside All Programs, I have a file folder that's called Microsoft Office. And inside that is OneNote 2010. I'm going to open that up. The first time you open up OneNote, it will ask you whether you want to save your notebook, which is your OneNote book, on your computer or online. Until you get used to it, my suggestion is to save it on your computer. Once you get a little bit more used to OneNote, then you'll be able to get a little bit more fancy with it and be able to save it online. When you open up the program, this is the way that it looks. You have File, Home, Insert, Share, Draw, Review, and View all at the top. That is your ribbon. Your ribbon is also known as your toolbar. But right now, it's hidden. If you click on Home, it kind of hangs over top of the notebook. And then if you click into the notebook, the ribbon goes away. Just for now, to stop that, all you have to do is double-click right on top of the names of any tab. So if I double-click on Home, that just anchors the toolbar back in its place, and it no longer collapses. By the way, that works with every single version of this new Office 2010. It's kind of neat. It allows you to hide the ribbon if you want to. It takes up a lot of space. But this is OneNote. What the heck is OneNote? Well, this is OneNote. The best way to describe it is it's your own personal database. You can put whatever you want in this thing. My meetings, direct reports, projects, customer requests, all kinds of different things. And the idea is that you have these tabs that go across the top. So, just to give you a bit of an idea, to create a new section or a new tab, you got a button for it. Very, very similar to Excel that way. When you click onto it, that's your new section. So this new section, I could call it something like Office 2010 Tips and Tricks. You see, that's the whole point. When you get information, where do you put it? Seriously, where do you put it? When somebody tells you a book that you want to read or tells you a movie that you should see, or a little shortcut key, a little tip or a trick about Outlook or Excel, where do you write that down? Do you put it in Notepad? Do you open up a Word document and create a Word document with all these tips in it, and then save it in a file folder on a network drive and forget about it? Well, that's what this is for. This is where I put all of my information. All the tips and tricks, all the different things that people tell me about, this is where I put it. This is my database. And if I put it here, I'll never lose anything else. So if I have any tips or tricks, I can come in here and write my tips or tricks. This is like a file folder, and on the right-hand side, pages. So if I need another page, I've got a button for it. Some of the pages contain page templates. So if you have a specific task, chances are there may be a template for it. As an example, if I click on page templates, I could use a business one, like a simple meeting, or maybe something a little bit more detailed, like a detailed meeting. These are all templates that you can use to fill out information. When you have a meeting, where do you put your notes? An Outlook? You ever try and find stuff in your calendar before? Old meetings? right? You don't really have them readily and available. Right? And sometimes even the title of the meeting may not really speak to what you were talking about in that meeting. So Outlook and OneNote, they're integrated. Let me show you. Up top, your home toolbar, you got all kinds of very typical things, right? Here I've got home, cut, copy, and paste. I can bold and italicize. I've got a handful of styles that I can use if I want to for formatting. I have all these different tags, and I'll talk about these later. More importantly, towards the end, it's stuff to do with Outlook. If somebody needs these meeting details, I've got a button to email the page. If there are different things that we're responsible for, right? If there's a list of to-dos, right? I can click into my list of to-dos. I'll take this title and I'll call it to-do. And for my list of to-dos, it could be an Outlook task that I've got to get done for tomorrow. I've actually marked it as an Outlook task to do this tomorrow. But when I take a look at my Outlook calendar, this shows up, or will show up eventually, as one of my to-dos, as something that I've got to get done. Meetings. All of my different upcoming meetings. For instance, I had a conference call, a couple of them today. I can insert the details from the meeting here. Again, as an example, I can create a new page, and I had a meeting at 2 o'clock. I can click on this, and there's my notes for my meeting. And it's integrated. I've got another one here, another conference call that I did. I can drop in the notes exactly where I am, or I can create a new page and put in my meeting details. So all I've got to do is type in my notes. The way that the pages work is like this. When you add a new page, you can click anywhere you want on the page to add information. Anywhere. And what it does is it creates a container. So I can make a list. And then I can move that list wherever I want. So I can brainstorm, come up with different ideas, right? And I can move these lists around. You can insert all kinds of other things too, like tags. If this is a list, something that I actually have to do, well, then I can mark it as something that I have to do. And I can mark this off and say, yeah, this is something else that I have to do. And then I've got other pages, right? So I can say, oh, this is something else that I have to do. And again, I have other pages. I can go to another page, make another note, make sure you update the site, and I can make that something that I have to do. The problem that we run into is that information is being kept in multiple places in multiple programs. With OneNote, I have the ability to pull all that information together in one spot. So if I need to see all the stuff that I have to do, I click on Find Tags. You tag your different bullet points, your sentences, your different ideas, and you tag them accordingly. It's an idea. It's something that's critical. It's something for a project, a movie that you want to see, a book that you want to read. And then when you're looking for this information, you want to find your tags. When I click on Find Tags, it shows me all the different things that I've tagged. It searches this notebook, or just this section, or just this page, or just the stuff that I've done today, or the stuff that I've done yesterday. This is where you put all of your information. I hear it from everybody, and myself included, that we get overloaded with information. Well, that's what OneNote is for. All that information that you get overloaded with, That's what this is for. You put that information here. Websites, books, things that people tell you, you throw it in here. But the problem is that all of that information sits in other programs. But with OneNote and Microsoft, it's not so much a problem. Let me show you my inbox here. Here I've got a message, Yammer, right? Well, what I can do is I can take email, important email that has dates and times and tips and tricks and all kinds of stuff, and I can move it, well, copy it into OneNote. You see, when you open up a message full screen, you have this section called Move. Well, if I click on OneNote, I decide where it goes. Where do I want to put it? I can say, well, it's part of Office Tips and Tricks. So I can say, yeah, throw it in Office Tips and Tricks. When I click OK, it puts it in Office Tips and Tricks. Throws it in there. So now I'm taking email, I'm taking appointments, I'm taking information that I have and dumping it into OneNote, into my personal database. And then when I'm looking for something, I can search. I can say, yeah, there's something on Yammer that I put in there. I type in Yammer and it finds it for me. Also highlights the word on the page. You ever search for something, right? You type in a search word and you look at the page and you think, that word's not even on this page. How did they even figure it? Well, I love the idea that OneNote highlights it. So I know why it suggested this page. I know why that it thinks, oh yeah, Yammer, right there. I can see it. That's just an email. It's the same with appointments. I can open up an appointment. I'll open up a different one here. I'll open up an appointment here, and I can link it to OneNote. So all my different notes are done in OneNote. I click on my OneNote link. It asks me, where do you want to put this thing? I say, I'm just going to throw it in general for now. And it puts in all my meeting details. I put in my notes. I can insert whatever I want, to-dos, follow-up stuff for Outlook tasks, right? And then if I want to see that appointment again, I don't have to go searching through my calendar. I click on link to Outlook item. Takes me right back. No tricks or anything. Watch. There's my Outlook. Find the appointment. So I go, oh yeah, there's the appointment, right? Sorry, wrong one. Open up the appointment. And I think, oh yeah, I think I got notes on this, don't I? I can click on my OneNote button. Opens up OneNote, takes me right to it. Or the other way around. I'm going through OneNote and I find, oh yeah, the course outline thing. I can click on link to Outlook item, which really means go to the link. And when I click on link to Outlook item, it opens up the appointment. Everyone needs a database. Everyone needs a personal database. You are inundated with so much information, and if you don't write it down, you will forget it. So this is my database. This is my personal database. I put everything in here. You ever find stuff on the internet? Stuff that you find interesting? Tips, tricks, an article that you wouldn't mind reading on the train ride home, right? So I can come here and I find an article that I'm interested in, and I click on the article, find what I'm looking for, and I can actually send all of this information to OneNote. Takes a second to load all this stuff in, right? You know, these advertisements and all this nonsense it's loaded, but all I got to do is click on Tools. You see inside Tools, you have this option that's called OneNote Link Notes. So I can say, yeah, I want to throw this some information here in general. And then I can make my notes about this page in here as well. On the next version of Internet Explorer, so if I was to work with Windows 8 and I had the version 10 or 11, then what I could do is I could actually send it right to OneNote. Not a bad option. What you're doing is you're putting everything all in one spot. You can copy and paste and put stuff in there. I can just write myself. I can insert all kinds of different things. Tables, pictures, screen clippings. Right? If I click on screen clipping, I can grab a portion of the screen. Right? Maybe I'm doing a little quick reference card showing people how to do different things in meetings. Quick, simple, and easy. Since it's a photograph, I can click onto it and I can resize it, I can move it, copy and paste it. But make no mistake, that is a photograph. You can search just about anything. You can search all the workbooks or just the section that you're working in. That way you're not doing some wild search, and you can be a lot more specific with the search. So I can type in what I'm looking for. Say the word accept. Remember, that was a picture. That's not text. That's a picture. So you can even search pictures. If there is text inside that picture, it's searchable. Take a picture of a whiteboard or something, and there's text on the whiteboard, it's searchable. Putting pictures in this program, there's actually a huge advantage to it. Not just pictures. It does the exact same thing with audio and video recordings. So if you were to record a bunch of different lectures, right? If I'm recording a bunch of different lectures, then I can put them all in OneNote. And then if I'm looking for a lecture on Word or a lecture on Access or Excel, I can type in the word that I'm looking for, and it will show me all the different lectures that they mention that word in the lecture, whether it's audio or video. Doesn't matter. In a sense, it kind of transcribes the video. Interesting little option. Interesting little feature. You can insert things like file printouts. You can attach files in here too. I can scan printouts. I can insert date and timestamps. So I can say, yeah, at this date or at this time, this is what happened. If I need more space at the top of the screen, in Word, I'd have to click at the top, hit my Enter key a million times, and that would be a bit of a hassle. Now, I click on Insert Space, and I can move stuff down the page. Or, if I have too much space because I've been deleting and moving stuff around, I can click on Insert Space and take that space away. Everything is in containers, so you can click beside something and make a note. If you work with other people, you could save this to a network drive and share it. When you share it, anybody that works within the notebook, it marks everything with their initials. Right now I'm hiding the authors, but I can unhide the authors and find things by author. I could sort things by author. Here I've got one author that's Microsoft. These are the default notes that come with it. And then because I've signed in as Train Canada, it shows me this and says, yeah, these are all the notes that you've done. If my boss Sandra was to sign in and make notes in my notebook, then there would be a section here that would say Sandra and would have all of her notes. And you can search the author in this section, in this group, in all your notebooks. You can sort it by the author. You can even sort it by the date modifier. If I'm off on vacation, I can take a look at the recent edits, things that my boss has added within the last 7 days. So I go away on vacation, I come back, and she doesn't really have to catch me up on anything. Not a bad option. You have other little things, like you can draw, so you can circle different things. This is actually where OneNote on a tablet makes sense. If your handwriting is good enough, and you're pretty handy with a tablet, it'll actually recognize your writing. It'll print it out. They call it OCR, optical character recognition. So what I can do is I can use my selection tool, and I can select this. And it's not going to pick that up. But I can ink it to text. So obviously, I don't have great handwriting. But if you do, this works really well. I can erase things. I can select stuff. I've got a highlighter. You can insert a number of limited shapes like, boxes, squares, things like that. It's little stuff. Nothing major. Nothing big. I love the insert space, though. Just allows me to move things around so I can get more real estate on different things. You can move stuff forward and backward and layer different things. You can also rotate things. So, like I said, there's a handful of things that you can do with this. It's also integrated throughout Office, too. So, if you were to open up Word, you can actually link Word documents to OneNote. Excel as well, no different. So I can take a look at, say, Excel, and open Excel as well. If I click on Home here, let me just do a quick spreadsheet, show you a neat feature. So I'm just going to have some products, and then I'll have a list of months. Right. And just a handful of products. I got DVDs, CDs, and 8-tracks. All right. I'll put in a couple of numbers here. I'll just copy these across. But I'm just going to make a little table. If I head to File, I'll save this, and I'll just save it in my documents, which is fine. But in OneNote, one of the interesting things that you can do is you can insert things called file printouts. Obviously, if I was to dispatch a file, there's nothing real interesting about that, to be dead honest. All it does is attaches a file. And you've seen this before in email. But this is neat. With the file printout, it's almost as if it prints the file out on the page. It takes a second or so. But there's the file. Let me close some of this stuff. That's the file. I actually get to look at it. And it shows me a link of where it's inserted. Now, this has been inserted from my desktop, but most of us work with network drives. So this way, it shows and reminds me where this file is kept. So not only do I get to see the file, but I get to see where the file is kept. Guys, I don't lose stuff. Everything sits in OneNote for me. I don't care what it is. Tips, tricks, books, movies, everything sits in OneNote. And then when I'm looking for stuff, I actually find it. If I go back to File here. Inside File, if I go to Info, this is information on my notebook. My different settings are here. And if I decide to share, well, I can share the notebook here. The reason I brought you here, though, I want to create a new notebook and show you something interesting. You can create new notebooks, save them on the web. You can save them on your computer. You can save them on a network drive somewhere. If you do want to store it on the web, you're going to have to sign up with a Windows Live ID or a Live account. You might know this as Hotmail or MSN Messenger, or if you're an Xbox fan, you've got an Xbox Live account that you can use. I'm just going to use my computer, but I will give it a name. I'll call it Train Canada. This is where it's going to store it. You would assume that it's a single file, but it's not. When I create the notebook, it gives me a brand new section, and I'll call this section tips and tricks with the phone. So new phone system comes in, I got tips, I got tricks, all for my users. You might have noticed where it keeps it. If I open up Internet Explorer, it's decided to put it in my library. And for some reason, my library doesn't want to come up, but that's okay. I'll go back to OneNote. I'll go to File. That's the location where it's kept. This is the location where this one is kept. Every single tab that you see is a separate file. So if I create a new tab, and I call it Office Projects, that's a new file. So that's a completely different file now. Every single book that you see is a separate file, right? Every file folder is a separate file. There's other types of things other than file folders that you can use. They're called section groups. If I right-click right on top of any tab, I can create a new section group. Let me show you exactly how I set this up on my machine. If I click on New Section Group, this is a whole group. So eventually, you're going to run out of space with all these different tabs. So you're going to want to put a file folder inside of a file folder. Well, that's how you do it. It's called a new group or a new section group. So I'm going to call this Office 2010. I'll create another new section group, and I'll call this one Office 2013. When I click on the Office 2010 group, I can create a new section for Word. I can create another new section for Excel. Another new section for PowerPoint. So now what I have is a whole group, a whole section that deals nothing with nothing but Office 2010. So I can put in my Word tips and tricks, my Excel tips and tricks for 2010, my PowerPoint tips and tricks for 2010 as well. This arrow navigates me right back to where I came from. And I can do the same thing with Office 2013. You can also move stuff back and forth. So if I realize that I wouldn't mind having this somewhere else, I can right-click, say, on PowerPoint, choose Move or Copy, and move or copy it to a different location. I can click on one tab, move that, click on another tab, move or copy that, click on the next tab. So it just allows me to very simply and very easily move things around. If I do have a bunch of tips and tricks that I want to share with people, one of the huge advantages that you have is being able to make PDFs. See, if I go to Personal, and I want to send somebody this whole section, the notes, top uses, what's new, all this jazz. If I want to send somebody all of this stuff, I right-click on the tab that's responsible for all that stuff. I head to Save As. When I head to Save As, I can save it as another OneNote section if I want to. And see, there's tips and tricks, there's general, there's your unfiled notes. So as I said, each tab is a separate file. But I don't want to save it as OneNote. I want to save it as a PDF. So you can take all your information, organize the information inside one of these sections, and then make a PDF out of the whole thing. Rather than use Word, right, have to follow the confines of a document, right? That makes it difficult. Instead, I come here, I save it as a PDF, I save the current section, or I can do the whole notebook. I'll just do the section. I'll also save it, just so it's easy, on my desktop. Let's see what it looks like. Back on my desktop, I should have a PDF. If I double click on it and I open it, it's all my stuff, all in a PDF. I didn't have to arrange it. I didn't have to do anything. I kind of glossed over this, but all this stuff actually works. So if I click that, it actually goes out and it actually plays it. It all works. It makes a beautiful PDF. All your links work. All the hyperlinks work. I'll close that off. I'll come right back to OneNote. So I'm kind of hoping that you're getting the idea that it's interesting, that it's helpful. Now, I've got a couple of questions here in Q&A, so I'm just going to go through some of the questions. Are we able to edit the text later? It's a picture. So when you search pictures that have text in it, it's a picture. It's still a picture. Hasn't changed. It's just that it has OCR, so it recognizes the typing within the photograph, but there's no way to change it. For that, you're going to need Illustrator or Photoshop or something like that. So you can't alter the photographs. Can an individual interlink between notebooks, i.e. where Word 2010 is a similar trick? Really no linking per se with this. I can copy stuff back and forth, but I can't create like a linked document where if I change it in one spot, it also changes in another spot. So yeah, unfortunately, I'd have to copy and paste stuff back and forth. No way to really synchronize pages. Any other questions at all? All right. As long as there's no questions, I'll keep going. So as I said, on the Home tab, there's a handful of things that you can play with, right? Mark things with tags. And if you run out of tags or these tags just don't do it for you, you can create custom tags. So here's the existing tags, but I can create new ones. I can give the tag a name. So I can call this Office Move. I can change the font color on this one. I can make it so it's highlighted. I can also change the symbol. It looks like a lot of symbols, but believe you me, you run out pretty quick. So I can say, yeah, use this symbol for the Office Move. And I'll click OK. Now I have a brand new tag. When I click OK, there's my tag right at the top. So if I'm planning an office move, I can write my list and say, yeah, this is for the office move. Let's see, sketch. Out floor plan. I can find tags and it organizes it all for me. In the Insert tab, we took a look at inserting spaces, but you can also insert pictures, tables. When you insert the tables, you get the typical table tools. I can insert links, hyperlinks. All right. So I can say, yeah, you know what? Click here for more interesting facts. So I can say, yeah, if you want more interesting facts on office products, click here for more. And I can use this for navigation. In fact, that was one of the projects that I just finished up. A CEO wanted to use OneNote, and wanted to use OneNote to link to different bits of information. So we built him a table of contents. The bits of information were all through OneNote, but he had one page, the beginning page, that was a table of contents. So all he had to do was click, and it would jump him to different sections. And then in each section, we would have a link back that would take you back to the table of contents. So it's great for organization, right? Not just information, but also organizing yourself and organizing that information. I'll go back to insert. Also inside insert, you can insert other things less popular, like equations. You have all kinds of different equations that you can insert. And if the equation that you're looking for isn't here, you can insert a new equation, type the equation, and then you have all these different symbols that you can use to build the equation yourself. And these equations actually work. If you were to copy and paste the equation and put it into Google and then hit search, Google would actually give you the answer for the equation. You can use Google as a calculator. You can use it as lots of things, actually. I'm not even scratching the surface. There's a lot that you can do with OneNote, but hands down, this is my #1 absolute favorite program. It keeps me organized. It's where I put all my stuff. It's where I put all my different ideas, my thoughts, information that I get when I'm at different seminars, or just having elevator conversations with some of the other instructors or some of the techs. Quite often we trade tips and tricks and little things that we didn't know, back and forth. Each program, each system has its own little idiosyncrasies, and unless you work with these things day in and day out, you don't learn some of the tips and tricks. So it's great when we pass stuff back and forth that we've got somewhere to put it. I even use it at the house. I'll use it for recipes and different things. So if I got chicken in the freezer or whatever, I can type in chicken and it pulls up all my different favorite recipes. So I can hopefully get inspired and cook something half decent for dinner. Any questions whatsoever? Another question. What happens if the files are on the network and then they're not available at some point? It's just like any other hyperlink. If you use a hyperlink, the internet's not there or the network's not there, then it's going to tell you that it's not there. Yeah, it doesn't cache the most recent version or anything like that. It's a link. That's all it is. Now, the other ones were actually stuck in files. Yeah, this one, that's the raw deal. That's the actual file. That is a copy of the file. That's got nothing to do with that. Unfortunately, for that. Unfortunately, this link, if it's a network drive, it's not going to work. Mac, yes. Does it work with a Mac? Yes, it does. Works with iPad, works with Mac. It's available for Android as well. Let me show you. A lot of times you can download different copies of light versions of things. But I'll do this the easy way. I'll Google this, and I'll type in Office Web Apps. If you haven't seen Office Web Apps, then you've been missing a little bit here. This is Office Online. Office Online for the home is free. You, like it says, you can start using it now, and you get access to all these wonderful things. let me hit back. Microsoft also has a product called Office 365. So don't get confused with Office 365 and Office Web Apps. Office 365 is more SharePoint and storing files online. So that's more OneDrive. Office Web Apps is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. And the beauty of it is that as long as it's for home use, it's free. The Mac version, you can download a copy. It's limited to 150 sheets, I believe. If you want any more than 150 sheets in the Mac version, you have to buy it. So that's a little bit different. Any other questions whatsoever? All right. Well, like I said, one more. Does this mean that Office Web Apps stores in SkyDrive for an individual and a corporate cloud for a business? Basically, they now call it OneDrive, and they don't really distinguish between individual or corporate. So whether it's individual or corporate, you're storing in the cloud for both. So tomato, tomato, quite honestly. So it basically works the same. Whether you're an individual or corporate, it works and feels exactly the same. Any other questions? Yeah, if you're missing OneNote in any of your applications, you'll have to talk to your IT department. It is a plugin, is an add-on that normally gets installed when you install Office 2010. So there's nothing extra, nothing that you really have to do. So if you're missing it, more than likely, your IT department purposely took that stuff out for whatever reason. So you may have to talk to them and ask them to add those add-ins or re-enable those add-ins in your different programs. Any other questions? Is this considered a better choice than Outlook? Outlook's for email, and OneNote is for organizing myself and dumping all my information in it. If you're referring to Office 365, my personal opinion, this looks like it's the way that Microsoft is going to go with Outlook. It appears that Outlook is going to be an online item and not so much a standalone item. So a lot of companies are moving towards a lot of this cloud computing stuff. Any other questions? Yeah, if I move an email, there's no link or anything. The idea is that the email contains information. And when you're trying to manage information, you're trying to manage email, your inbox should basically be kept fairly empty. And if it's not, then you're using your email as a database, and you can't do that. That it's an inefficient database. There's size restrictions. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. It's difficult to search. It's difficult to find information. So when I have information that's valuable to me, I move it out of Outlook and I move it into a database. I move it into a permanent storage place. Outlook is temporary. My inbox is temporary. So any information that I find valuable, I store it into OneNote because Outlook is really not meant for doing that. And yes, I use Outlook in tandem with OneNote. For me, they just go hand in hand. It just makes sense to use them both. Um, Outlook is used to gather information, and OneNote is used to store it. Any other questions at all? All right, if there's no more questions, then that is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for coming out to today's presentation. I hope you at least learned one or two things with OneNote, and I also hope that I convince you to use the thing. In 45 minutes, I really don't do it justice, but if you take an entire OneNote class with us, you'll see quite a bit. There's quite a lot that we go through, and it really does help to organize you. So once again, thank you very much, everyone. Make sure you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.